You have a writing prompt based on what you read? Is that what I'm understanding?
No. So we would write 3 pages on each book about what we learned from that book.
Gotcha.
So you would pick one thing. So it's not like a book report.
Okay.
In this book, Lyra from the Golden Compass has an animal companion and she goes on an adventure. That's not what you're doing. It's more like, how does that animal companion function? And what does Philip Pullman accomplish through that animal companion that he couldn't maybe have accomplished some other way? And then, you're applying what you're learning to your actual thesis work. So there was always a page limit depending on who your advisor was, of how much they would read in each packet. So there would be a process letter where you would literally write your advisor a letter about the last 3 weeks, and it could include personal stuff as well as what's going on with your book. I'm getting kind of stuck on this thing, and I'm not really sure what to do with this part. So if you have any suggestions, or this is where I am, or I feel like this thing is going really well. Thank you for suggesting that I read, I don't know, I was going to make one up. The Dark is Rising is another book that I read. So, anything like that, including, in my first, I guess it was my first semester, my grandmother is not doing well and we don't know how much longer she'll last, because all of that is affecting your process. It's all legitimate. So you would have like a couple pages for your letter. You'd probably have 9 or 10 pages for your 3 book annotations. And then you would have another 15 or 20 pages for your original work every 3 weeks.
Would you go back to Vermont at the end of the semester, or was that only that 1 week in the beginning?
It was just the week at the beginning, but then you were back for the next semester, so it kind of bookended itself, and then finally you go up to graduate. Yeah.
Oh, didn't even know that existed. That's pretty wild. So you decided to write your first full-length novel called The Silver Child. How did that come about?
That was my MFA thesis novel, but I did not expect it to be my thesis when I started the program at Goddard.
So how did it become what it became?
Yeah, so about a month, I think, before I started at Goddard, I realized that I hadn't written anything in a while. And I had that, hello, you're starting a writing program in a month. Do you maybe want to act like a writer for a while, moment? And I didn't really know what I wanted to write. I had a novel that was in progress, and I had thought that I was going to finish it at Goddard until I got there and found out that no, you have to start a new thing. And so I was kind of stuck on that. And so I thought, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I went back to my first line prompts, and I found a first line that said, the baby had been born with blank. Fill in the blank. And I looked at it and, my brain went straight to the cliche and said, a silver spoon in its mouth. And then I thought, yeah, you can't do that. You cannot be born with a silver spoon in your mouth. So you can't do that. But I had most of a first page where the doctor who delivers this baby is like, so the kid was born with a silver spoon in its mouth, and I didn't really know what to do about it, and we just kind of brushed it off and, whatever. And, I sat there and I looked at it and I kept saying, you can't do that. You can't be born with a silver spoon in your mouth. I like this guy's voice. He sounds cool, but this doesn't work. And then at some point within the next day or two, and I want to say it was while I was in the shower, because I think that your synapses fire better when you're in the shower or driving a car, at least in my experience. All of a sudden, this little voice in my head said, but what if you were? And that one question just, opened everything up. And I went, oh, what if you were? What would it mean if you were? Why would you be? How could that happen? What would it mean? What would it let you do? Would it be some kind of magic power? Would it be some sort of bizarre medical disaster? What does it even mean? And that gave me enough mojo to keep writing it. And I got about 17 pages done. And I just got to where I was like, I don't know what this is. And I was about to go off by then to start this program. So I thought, well, I don't know. I could do something with this maybe while I'm at Goddard, and maybe not. We'll see. So when I got to Goddard, I decided, since I had to start something new, that I would write short stories, because I figured there's room to experiment, right? This short story can be some weird fantasy story, and this one over here could be, noir or literary or whatever. Forgetting that there's never been anything short about me at all. And so I managed to put together 2 short stories, one from each of my first 2 packets. And I thought, I'll save this other thing. If I have a packet where nothing comes, it'll be my emergency backup insurance thing that I'll send off. Well, that happened in my 3rd packet, because my grandmother was busy dying, and I was trying to help my dad with all of that. And I was teaching full time and everything else. And I just thought, forget it. I don't have anything else. I'm going to put it in here. And I said in my letter to my advisor, I don't know what this is. I don't know if it's a short story. I don't know if it's a novel. I have no idea what it is. But here it is. It's not finished. It's just here. And she wrote back and she said, this is not a short anything. And I thought, yeah, I kind of had a feeling you were going to say that, but I was hoping maybe, And then she said, it would be a great thesis novel if that's what you wanted to do with it. So suddenly in the middle of my first semester, I'm contemplating a massive shift of gears. And I thought, boy, if I'm going to do this, I have to decide now. Because I've already lost the first 6 weeks if I change and, whatever. And I kind of thought, I don't know, maybe I should just let it sit, keep doing what I'm doing. But I was intrigued enough by it that I thought, okay, all right. If it would be a great thesis novel, and I'm probably not really a short story writer anyway, so who am I fooling? Because this is not a short anything. And I decided to run with it. So I was terrified because I had never actually finished a novel. You kind of have to finish your project for them to give you the diploma.
Yeah, that helps.
And so I thought, oh, Lordy, I could be getting myself into turning a 2-year program into a 3-year program. And what if I just don't know how to finish anything? What if I never finish? What if I do all of this? And, this is when what if becomes a deep question. So I did finish it, and I had to send it off to my advisor and my second reader to go through my last semester and get their feedback on it so that I knew what to fix. And my second reader, who had been my original advisor, was the one who said, yeah, your ending is terrible. I think you just got so excited about the idea of finishing the book that you didn't really think about it, and you just threw an ending in there. So you need to fix that. And I was like, ending is coming back to haunt me. But I managed to, come up with something that worked a whole lot better and finish my degree and pick up my diploma. And then I let it sit for a while. I let it sit for a year before I looked at it again, which was great because then I went back to it and it was like putting pieces of a puzzle together. It was like, okay, I'm reading through all of this and what makes sense and what doesn't, and what questions do I have that I need to answer. And it says, on this page up here on page 50, it says this thing that's completely contradicted over here on page 127. So which one am I going to do? And how do I, it really was. It was like solving a jigsaw puzzle. And then I finally, I did query some agents, and I just got tired of, I know the whole, you have to send stuff off to like 78 people before you give up. Like, I think that might have been Stephen King's magic number. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But in the age of self-publishing, I just thought, you know what? I think I just want to put it out here. I need to be able to stop thinking about it. I need to not work on it anymore. It's not perfect. I go back and I read it now and I think, where's my red pen? But it was as perfect as I could make it at that point, and it was time to let it go. So that's what I did. So I published it in 2015.
Congrats, you're a published author. Yay.
Thank you. It is pretty cool when you see it as a book for the first time. It's like suddenly it's real. It had been this amorphous thing that just existed as letters on a screen, and now, ooh, it's a real thing.
And people have been purchasing it?
Sometimes. I mean, it's not huge. There's a whole debate in publishing or at least there was the last time I tuned into the debate in publishing. I have a friend also from Goddard who did get a traditional publishing deal and an agent and whatever. And, by the time you get done paying agents' fees and all of that kind of stuff, how much do you make selling your book? The advantage is that you will end up in Barnes and Noble. You'll end up, getting reviewed in places that are a lot harder to get reviewed in as a self-published author. But, there are people who manage to make it work self-published, and then there are people who don't, just like there are on both sides. So it's kind of a crapshoot, I think, at this point, though that may have shifted in the last year or two.
I'm going to get into your process. When writing a story, do you start with pen, paper, keyboard? Do you do an outline? Do you block out certain times of day to do the writing?
When I was doing my MFA, I did notice that the mornings were really productive times for me. So weekends, I basically had no life for 2 years. I would give myself, like, the Friday that I would mail a packet off, I would give myself that night off. But Saturday and Sunday mornings was, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to work on all of this stuff and I'm going to get a ton of stuff done. But as far as actually sitting down to write, I love the feel of writing with a really good, smooth pen on paper, but my brain goes way faster than my hand does. So I learned a long time ago that typing is the way to go for me. So I sit down with my Mac and my copy of Scrivener and just go. And I do not outline. I am 100% in the pantser camp as opposed to the plotter camp, because I fly by the seat of my pants. If I didn't, if I knew what was going to happen in the story, I wouldn't need to write it. So I run with it and see where characters take me. And there are definitely moments where they will say to me, yeah, so you thought I was going to do this thing up here, but no, I'm not. I'm going to do this other thing. And sorry, sometimes they apologize. Sometimes they don't. Yeah. Sometimes I argue with them and they just kind of sit there and go, I don't really care what you want me to do. I'm going to do this other thing, which makes you think you're crazy the first time it happens to you. But it's a pretty common story. Yeah. So I have to discover it as I go, which is part of the whole jigsaw puzzle thing, right? Like, you forget 75 pages later that you said something slightly different over here, and now you got to decide which one you want to keep, or if you can cut that mention, or whatever. But so I've heard some people talk about it as outlining in reverse, and I think that's fairly true, because you do still have to go through and make sure it all hangs together, that it all is coherent and makes sense. But yeah, I have to discover the story along with everybody else.
You have a writer's block?
Sometimes. Yeah. That's not a lot of fun. For as much as the moments of flow when you write 10 pages in an hour and can't figure out where they came from are fabulous, there are also the moments when you just sit there going, I don't know what to do with this today. But I did discover that, and there are people who would be horrified by this, and I know because one of them was when I was in coach training, but it worked for me. I would set a timer for 15 minutes and say to myself, okay, write 500 words in the next 15 minutes. They don't have to be good words. They can all be the same word if there's nothing else coming out. It could be, this is crap, crap for, the first 5 minutes, if that's what you've got. But 500 words in 15 minutes. And I think, at least for me, that there's something about the action of fingers on keyboard and 500 words. I'm going to come up with 500 words. I'm going to do it in a hurry. I think that it primes the system, and it also forces you to let go, because you can't be sitting there thinking, what am I going to write? I have to come up with 500 words and I'm down to 8 minutes. You just have to let it flow, even if it's terrible. So it gets past your perfectionism. It gets past your planning and your worry and all of that. And almost, in fact, I don't think I remember a single time when I wasn't able to keep going after those 15 minutes. Even if it wasn't the greatest thing ever, there would be something that would start to happen. But I also learned little things like, stop before you're really done. There were times that I would, I would say, okay, I know what the next scene is. I'm not going to take the next 10 minutes and write it, because I don't know what comes after this. And if I know what I'm going to write when I sit down tomorrow,